No one in the courtroom expected what happened next. The woman who stormed through the double doors carried the kind of confidence that didn't just enter a room, it dominated it. Her heels cracked sharply against the floor. Her chin was lifted high enough to seem rehearsed. And the moment she approached the defendant's stand, she ordered the court clerk to hurry up, as though she were addressing a staff assistant, not an officer of the court. A low murmur rippled through the gallery. Judge Frank Caprio, who had seen thousands of cases and witnessed every shade of human behavior, slowly looked up from his docket. His eyes narrowed not in anger, but in that quiet, penetrating way he had when something didn't feel right. Something was off. Everyone could feel it. No one knew what was coming, but they were about to. The defendant's name was Marilyn Hartford, age 48, charged with 2 violations: a speeding ticket in a school zone and a failure to stop at a pedestrian crosswalk. Ordinarily, neither charge would draw much attention, but the moment Marilyn stepped forward, it became clear this was no ordinary case. She wore a tailored navy dress, an expensive scarf, perfect makeup, yet her expression was tight, irritated, almost offended by the mere act of standing in line. And when the clerk asked her to confirm her identity, she waved a hand dismissively, muttering, "Please, I don't have all day." People turned, watching. Some raised eyebrows. Others folded their arms, curious. Behind her calm exterior, though, something throbbed in intensity, a tension, almost like fear disguised as arrogance, but no one could read it yet. The courtroom had grown unusually still, as if waiting for a fuse to burn down, and it was about to. Judge Frank Caprio adjusted his glasses and studied Marilyn with that seasoned, gentle wisdom that made millions admire him. He was a man who had looked into countless faces, angry faces, desperate faces, guilty faces, grieving faces, and he always searched for the humanity buried beneath the surface. But this woman, he sensed a story, a storm behind the polished appearance. He leaned forward slightly. "Good morning," Judge Caprio said, his voice calm, respectful, steady. "You are Marilyn Hartford, is that correct?" She nodded impatiently. "Yes, Judge, and I really need this to be quick. I have an appointment with my husband." Caprio blinked, expression soft but unreadable. "And your husband is?" She lifted her chin. "Congressman Richard Hartford." A rustle went through the courtroom, not loud, but noticeable. Judge Caprio paused, not intimidated, not impressed, simply thoughtful. Titles never mattered to him. People did. "Well," he replied gently, "we appreciate that you're busy. But this is a courtroom, and we take our time ensuring justice is done. So before we rush, let's understand why you're here." His tone wasn't sharp, just firm in the way a wise elder might guide a restless child. Marilyn's jaw tightened, and Caprio took note. Judge Caprio flipped through the printed police report. "Mrs. Hartford, according to the officer, you were clocked going 42 miles per hour in a 25-mile school zone. And a witness states that a child attempted to cross the street at the time." Marilyn rolled her eyes only slightly, but enough that the gallery noticed. "I wasn't speeding," she snapped. And that witness was exaggerating. Caprio raised a brow. "Would you like to explain what happened?" She hesitated. Her eyes flickered annoyance, frustration, something unspoken. Then she gave a short, controlled exhale. "I was late. That's all. I had to get to a doctor's appointment earlier that morning, and then I had to prepare notes for my husband's town hall meeting. The security detail took too long picking me up. And Caprio gently interrupted. "Let's slow down for a moment. You said you had a doctor's appointment. Are you ill?" Something changed in her expression. A crack, a flicker of vulnerability quickly smothered. "It's nothing," she said stiffly. But it didn't sound like nothing. Judge Caprio leaned back, studying her closely. He had learned over decades that people rarely snap or posture without reason. Often, beneath the surface, there lived pain, fear, or pressure no one else saw. "Mrs. Hartford," he said softly, "you seem tense. And rushing the clerk earlier? Well, that's unusual. You ordered her around as if she worked for you." Marilyn's eyes widened. "I didn't order her," she protested. I just, I just needed things to move faster. I've been dealing with a lot. Caprio nodded slowly. And what exactly have you been dealing with? The question hung in the air. The courtroom waited. Marilyn swallowed. Her fingers gripped her handbag tightly, so tightly the leather creaked. But she didn't answer. Not yet. Caprio spoke quietly, his tone full of that unusual combination of firmness and compassion he was known for. Mrs. Hartford, he said, you're not on trial for being late. You're not here because your husband is a congressman. You're here to clarify what happened that morning, and I want to understand your side fully. Marilyn looked down. Her voice dropped. Judge, with all due respect, you don't understand the pressure I'm under. He nodded. I might understand more than you think. Why don't you tell me? She hesitated again, longer this time, and then the silence broke. My husband is under investigation, she whispered. A ripple shot through the courtroom. Caprio's eyebrows lifted slightly, not in judgment, but in sudden comprehension. Something clicked. He's being accused of misusing campaign funds, she continued. It's been on the news for days. Reporters outside our home, paparazzi, angry constituents. Every phone call, every email, every knock on the door. It's another attack. Her voice wavered. My daughter is afraid to go to school. I haven't slept more than 3 hours in weeks. I'm the one dealing with everything, while Richard is trying to save his reputation. The courtroom softened. The arrogance people thought they saw was slowly reshaping into something else. Pain, fear, exhaustion. Caprio listened deeply. No interruptions, no judgment, just presence. And on top of all that, she said, voice trembling, I've been sick. The doctor thinks it might be. She stopped. Her throat tightened visibly. Judge Caprio leaned forward, face etched with concern. You don't need to share anything medical if you're uncomfortable, he said gently. Marilyn shook her head. No, I think I need to say it, because maybe then you'll understand why I acted the way I did. Her breath caught. My doctor is testing me for early-stage lymphoma. The courtroom froze. A woman in the gallery gasped quietly. Caprio's expression softened with the weight of true empathy. Marilyn blinked back tears, her voice cracking as she continued. I didn't tell Richard. I didn't tell anyone. He has so much to lose already. And I didn't want to add one more burden. So I rushed. I panicked. I made mistakes. Her voice dropped to almost a whisper. And I took it out on people who didn't deserve it. Caprio exhaled slowly. This was the moment he realized this case was not about a traffic violation at all. It was about a woman carrying the weight of her entire world on her shaking shoulders. The courtroom felt different now. Not tense, not hostile, just the woman everyone assumed was entitled, dismissive, impossible to deal with, suddenly looked very small, very tired, very breakable. Her elegant posture had wilted, her voice trembled. Her fingers shook where they clutched the strap of her handbag. Even the clerk she had spoken sharply to earlier now watched her with soft, almost motherly eyes. Judge Caprio took a long breath, the weight of the moment settling on his shoulders. He had seen many people break down in front of him, but this was different. This wasn't guilt. This wasn't manipulation. This was a woman who had been silently carrying a storm big enough to drown her, and today, finally, the dam gave out. Mrs. Hartford, Caprio said gently, why haven't you told your husband about your health concerns? She looked up, eyes glistening. Because everything in his world is burning, she whispered. He's barely holding on. And if he loses the election, the committee, the party support, he loses everything he spent 20 years building. She wiped a tear quickly, as if ashamed of her own emotion. And if I show him that I'm falling apart too, he'll break. And I can't let that happen. Not now. Not when the whole country is watching him. Caprio studied her carefully. Her logic was flawed, painfully flawed. But it came from a place of love twisted by fear. And you think he wouldn't want to know you're struggling? She swallowed hard. He can't afford to care right now, she said quietly. The public wants someone strong. The donors want someone steady. His staff wants someone who doesn't crumble. And the media, her lip trembled. The media would tear us apart. The courtroom murmured softly. Caprio's eyes softened even further. Then Marilyn added something he did not expect. I'm not just his wife, she said. I'm his shield. I handle the calls he can't. I manage the reporters he avoids. I speak to angry constituents so he can prepare speeches. I'm the one who takes the hits. A tear slipped down her cheek. This morning, when I was rushing, I wasn't thinking about speed limits or crossings. I was thinking about whether the test results would come back positive, about how many camera crews were going to be outside our house, and about whether today was the day everything in my life would collapse. Her voice broke. So yes, I was wrong. I snapped at people. I acted entitled. But I wasn't trying to be cruel. I was just drowning. The silence in the room was heavy, almost reverent. Judge Caprio nodded slowly. Mrs. Hartford, he said, I'm truly sorry for what you're facing. But I have to ask you something important. Something about the incident itself. Marilyn looked up warily. Of course. Caprio leaned forward slightly. The officer's notes say there was a near accident. Not with a child, but with another car. It stopped suddenly, and you swerved. A new wave of murmurs filled the room. Marilyn stiffened. Her eyes widened. I don't know what you mean. There was no other car. Caprio tapped the paper lightly. Well, according to the witness statement, there was. And not just any witness. He paused. The driver was a school teacher escorting a disabled student. Gasps broke out. A man in the back shook his head, whispering to his neighbor. Marilyn's face drained of all color. That can't be right, she whispered. Caprio lifted a hand for silence. We have their testimony. The teacher said they honked because you were drifting into the wrong lane. That's the only reason a child wasn't struck. Marilyn blinked rapidly. I don't remember, she said, voice shaking. I swear, Judge, I don't remember another car. I was so focused on getting to the doctor that... She stopped. A look of horror spread across her face. Oh my God, she whispered. Was I that distracted? Caprio didn't answer immediately. His silence was the answer. Marilyn's knees buckled slightly, and she grabbed the edge of the podium. The gallery was dead quiet. For the first time, the consequences landed fully on her. Not the ticket, not the embarrassment, not the courtroom moment, but the terrifying truth. Her panic, her fear, her exhaustion could have hurt someone innocent. A child. Courtroom reaction, emotional fallout. The teacher and student weren't there in person, but their presence hung over the room like a ghost. Marilyn choked out. I would never. I didn't know. She covered her mouth with her hand as tears streamed silently down her cheeks. I'm so sorry, she whispered. Oh God, I'm so sorry. Judge Caprio let the moment settle. Then he spoke, voice soft but unyielding. Mrs. Hartford, you're clearly dealing with extraordinary circumstances, but driving while distraught can be just as dangerous as driving while impaired. Your situation, painful as it is, does not erase the risk created on that road. She nodded, sobbing quietly. I know that now. Her voice cracked with genuine remorse. Caprio sat back in his chair, looking at her with a depth of compassion few judges possessed. Inside, his thoughts turned heavy. He had always believed the courtroom was more than a place of punishment. It was a place of truth. A place where people stripped of titles, power, reputation showed who they really were. And what he saw in Marilyn wasn't arrogance, or entitlement, or superiority. It was fear, raw, bone-deep fear. A woman afraid of losing her husband's career, afraid of a diagnosis that could end her own life, afraid of being the weak link in a world that demanded perfection from her every second. He thought about how many people carried silent battles through these doors, how many masks fell away under questioning, how often society misjudged what it didn't see. He also thought about the law, and the child who might have been hurt. Justice had to be fair, but it also had to be humane. Caprio breathed deeply. Then he looked at her again, this time, with the weight of a decision forming behind his eyes. Mrs. Hartford, Caprio said, you mentioned earlier that you needed this proceeding to be quick because you had an appointment with your husband. She nodded, wiping tears. Yes. His team is waiting. They're preparing a public statement about the investigation. Caprio folded his hands. And does he know you're in court? No, she admitted softly. He thinks I'm meeting with a friend. Caprio sighed. Well, I think it's time he knows. Marilyn froze. Her eyes widened in panic. No, Judge, please, he can't. He's under enough pressure. Caprio raised a hand. Mrs. Hartford, justice isn't just about consequences. It's also about accountability. And sometimes, people need to face the truths they've been avoiding. He nodded to the bailiff. Please bring a phone to the bench. Whispers erupted instantly. Marilyn shook her head, backing a half step. Judge Caprio, please don't involve him. I beg you. Caprio looked at her with profound empathy. This is not to embarrass you, or him, but I believe your husband needs to hear directly what you've been carrying. It's time he understands the burden you're bearing alone. Her breath hitched. Tears filled her eyes again. Judge, he won't take it well. He'll be angry. Caprio's voice softened. Or perhaps he will finally see the weight on your shoulders and offer the support you desperately need. The phone was placed before him. He dialed a number written on the report. The entire courtroom leaned forward. Marilyn covered her face with trembling hands. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Then, hello? Congressman Hartford speaking. The courtroom went completely still. Caprio cleared his throat. Good morning, Congressman. This is Judge Frank Caprio from the Providence Municipal Court. A pause. A long one. Then a sharp inhale. My wife is in court? Caprio's voice remained steady. Yes, Congressman. And I believe you need to hear something important from her. He extended the phone toward Marilyn. She stared at it like it was a ticking bomb. Then, slowly, with shaking fingers, she took it. Richard, she whispered, voice barely audible. I need to tell you something. Marilyn held the phone to her ear like it weighed 100 pounds. The entire courtroom watched her. Not with judgment, not with disdain, but with breath-held anticipation. On the other end, the congressman's voice softened, though a faint tremor of controlled panic underlined each word. Marilyn, what's going on? She swallowed, but her throat tightened. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she finally whispered, I'm not okay. Silence. Not the cold kind, not the distant political kind, but a silence that cracked with shock and something deeper. What do you mean? He asked, voice suddenly unsteady. What's happened? Her lip quivered. I didn't tell you because your whole world is falling apart, and I didn't want to add more. But I should have. I should have told you. Tell me what? His voice sharpened with worry. Marilyn closed her eyes. The doctor thinks I may have lymphoma. A gasp escaped someone in the gallery. The congressman inhaled sharply, loud enough for the entire room to hear. What? His voice cracked. Marilyn, why didn't you tell me? She broke. Because saying it out loud, to him, in front of strangers, under courtroom lights, made it real in a way she had been terrified to face. I didn't want to distract you. You're fighting for your career, and I. Stop. His voice was raw, stripped of every public official layer. None of that matters. You matter. Why would you think a campaign means more than your life? My God. Marilyn. She pressed her hand to her mouth, sobbing. Judge Caprio's eyes softened with deep, quiet sympathy. The congressman's voice lowered, breaking. Marilyn, I don't care about the election. I don't care about the committees. I don't care about anything except you. You're my wife, my partner. I should have seen you were struggling. The courtroom was still as a held breath. Even the bailiff's stern composure flickered. Then, the congressman asked, in a near whisper, Where are you right now? She wiped her cheeks. In court, I got a traffic ticket. A bad one. I was distracted, and I almost caused an accident. She braced herself for frustration, for disappointment, for that political fury she had grown used to smoothing over. But instead, his voice turned gentle. We'll handle it. First we handle you. I'm coming down there. Her eyes widened. Richard, no, you have meetings. I don't care, he said firmly. I'll be there. Stay with the judge. And the line went dead. Marilyn lowered the phone slowly. Her entire body seemed to collapse inward, trembling with emotional exhaustion. Judge Caprio leaned forward, voice soft but unwavering. Mrs. Hartford, I'm glad you shared this. And I'm glad your husband listened. She nodded weakly. I'm sorry, she whispered. To you. To the clerk. To everyone. I truly am. Caprio gave her a small, warm nod. We all have moments when life overwhelms us. What matters is what we do next. He folded his hands, preparing to deliver his judgment. Judge Caprio cleared his throat gently. Mrs. Hartford, the speeding and failure to stop violations you're charged with are serious, especially considering how close you came to causing harm. Marilyn lowered her head. Yes, Judge. But, he continued, they did not result in an accident, and your remorse today is unmistakable. Her shoulders shook. Caprio continued. Here is my ruling. The courtroom leaned in. I'm going to reduce the fines significantly. But I cannot dismiss them entirely. A message must be sent, not just to you, but to anyone who might think being overwhelmed excuses unsafe driving. She nodded gratefully, tears still streaming. I understand completely, but I am also ordering something else, Caprio said. Not as punishment, but as care. She looked up, confused. I want you to promise me that you will speak openly with your husband from now on. About your health, about your fears, about your limits. Her eyes widened. That's not a legal condition, but it is a human one. Her lip trembled again. Judge, I promise. Caprio's voice warmed with genuine sincerity. You don't need to be a shield all the time. Even the strongest people need someone to lean on. A soft sniffle echoed from the gallery. And finally, he added, you need to follow through with your medical tests. Take care of yourself. Because the world your husband is fighting for means nothing without you in it. Marilyn broke down completely this time. Thank you, Judge Caprio. Thank you. Caprio offered her the gentlest smile. Go home. Rest. And tell your husband everything he needs to know. She nodded, placing a hand over her heart. I will. Before Caprio could adjourn, the courtroom doors burst open. A tall man in a navy suit rushed inside, the congressman himself. Breathless, tie loosened, eyes frantic. He looked nothing like the controlled figure on television. He looked like a scared husband. He spotted Marilyn instantly. Marilyn, he exclaimed, hurrying to her. She turned, and he wrapped her in his arms. The entire courtroom watched as the congressman, a national figure constantly under scrutiny, held his wife tightly, kissing the top of her head, whispering into her hair, I'm here. We'll handle this together. I'm so sorry you felt alone. Marilyn sobbed into his chest. Caprio allowed the moment, his eyes warm. This was humanity. Not power, not politics, not public image. Just love, raw and real. When the congressman finally turned to Judge Caprio, he straightened himself, but didn't hide the redness in his eyes. Judge, thank you for calling me. I should have been more attentive, more present.